everybody, I'm here today to talk to you about 8 lane change tips and tricks. In this video, I'll be going over 8 specific things that will make you better at switching lanes. And we all know how often we switch lanes when we drive. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. Tip and trick number 1 is to switch smoothly. Your transition from one lane to the next should be extremely smooth, okay? It shouldn't be rough and it shouldn't be too gradual. It should be really smooth. Whether you're moving from the right lane to the left or the left lane to the right, you should be sure to switch lanes smoothly. It will make a huge difference. Now, as a rule of thumb, in order to switch lanes smoothly, one thing that you can do is just adjust the steering wheel a little bit when you plan on switching lanes. Meaning a lot of people tend to steer too much when they switch lanes, or they basically don't steer at all. And that leads to a lane change that is too fast or too gradual. You need to do it smoothly, so just give the steering wheel just a little bit of an angle and you'll be better at switching lanes smoothly. Tip and trick number 2 is to signal early. Your signal is a key factor in switching lanes safely, properly, and effectively. It allows the other drivers to know what you plan on doing. I would recommend that, when you're ready to switch lanes, you put your signal on, for a few seconds before you actually start the process of checking your mirrors and your blind spot and switching lanes. And that's because you want to make sure that the drivers around you know that you plan on switching lanes. So signal early is tip and trick number 2. Tip and trick number 3 is to keep your speed. So maintain your speed. I was trying to figure out how to say that. You really want to make sure that when you're switching lanes, you're maintaining one speed when you switch lanes. You generally shouldn't be going faster or slower throughout the lane changing process. You should keep your speed. Meaning if I'm going 50 kilometers an hour in this left lane and I want to switch to the right lane, I'm going to try and maintain that speed of 50 kilometers an hour as I switch lanes. And also when I get into that right lane, I'm going to try and maintain that speed of 50 kilometers an hour. So just try and maintain your speed as much as you possibly can when you're switching lanes. Tip and trick number 4 is to always be sure it's safe to move. It's very important to make absolutely sure that it's absolutely safe to switch lanes from one lane to the other. If you have to check your blind spot twice or check your side mirror twice, then do that. Do what you need to do until you can be absolutely certain that it's safe to switch lanes. You really want to make sure that it's completely safe to switch lanes. When someone is changing lanes, there is an absolutely increased chance of getting into an accident or near accident. So you want to counteract that by being absolutely sure that it's safe to switch lanes. You don't want to just be another number in the game where you switch lanes and you get into an accident or a near accident. You hear that horn and then you have to swerve back, right? You don't want to be in that position. You don't want to be that statistic. So instead, make sure that it's absolutely safe to switch lanes before you start the process and actually go through with it. Tip and trick number 5 is to avoid switching near or in an intersection. Now, intersections are complex parts of the road where different lanes of traffic and different directions of traffic sort of interact with each other. So trying to change lanes when you're close to an intersection or in an intersection is actually not a good idea at all. Now, different countries and states and whatever the case is, different places will have different laws and rules and recommendations for the amount of space that you should leave before or after an intersection before you try and switch lanes. Like they want you to leave a certain gap between yourself and the intersection before you end up switching lanes. So be sure to look up what that is, because I can't speak for wherever it is that you drive, but make sure that you look it up so that you know what you're dealing with, because you don't want to do something that will get you a ticket, and especially something that is unsafe. Moving forward to tip and trick number 6, try to keep lane switches, lane changes to a minimum. Now, obviously you're gonna have to change lanes when you're driving. It's inevitable. You're gonna have to change lanes pretty much every time that you drive. At least a few times you're gonna have to change lanes. But don't just change lanes for the purpose of changing lanes. Don't just change lanes to gain yourself, 10 seconds, to shave off 10 seconds on your commute. Change lanes pretty much only when it's necessary. You want to make sure to only change lanes when it's absolutely necessary to keep your lane changes to a minimum. I don't mean to only change lanes when you absolutely have to. I just need to try and keep it to as few lane changes as possible. I mean, you can do some that are unnecessary, but don't just keep switching lanes, weaving in and out. Nobody likes that driver, and when you're at an increased risk for getting into an accident or a ticket or making a hasty driving decision, you're not gonna like being that driver. You're not gonna like being in that position. All right, tip and trick number 7 is practice until you get it almost perfect. And I say almost perfect because no one's perfect. No one can do things in a perfect way. But I will tell you this, practice does make progression, and progression is what you're aiming for. So keep practicing your lane changes until you become great at them, until you're not thinking about what you have to do, you're just doing it. It's that simple. You want to keep practicing your lane changes until you're not thinking about what you have to do, you're just doing it. So practice until you make progress and eventually get as close to perfect as you can be with your lane changes. Last but not least, the 8th tip and trick for switching lanes and changing lanes is to look at the traffic ahead. Now, when you're changing lanes, what you don't want to do is get into that new lane and then all of a sudden realize, wow, look at all of this congestion, look at all of this traffic. You don't want to be in that position. So look at the traffic ahead and make sure that you're switching lanes accordingly, okay? Don't switch lanes and then, have to like slam on your brakes when you get into the new lane. That's not a good position to be in. And don't switch lanes and then have to like floor the gas pedal in your new lane. Not a good position to be in. Just be sure to be aware of the traffic ahead, and once you're aware of it, make an educated decision as to whether or not you should switch lanes at that point in time, or like whether you have to switch lanes or whether it can wait until a further point in time in the commute. And that's basically it. In this video, I've gone over 8 lane change tips and tricks. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down below as a comment. And of course, be sure to subscribe for more great car and driving videos just like this one. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching.